going to be quite a journey because I finally was able to kill Awakener before he was able to do any moves, and that's called the sweet spot for melee builds. So melee builds are generally pretty bad on Awakener, right? Until they reach the sweet spot where the Awakener can't do anything because you have such insane damage that he just instantly dies. So I'm happy that I was able to finally reach it. I was actually kind of surprised the build did that much damage because some people in my chat were telling me that you needed like 70 mil to 100 mil to instantly phase Awakener before he was able to do anything. But maybe the damage of the build is actually higher because of Hydra Spear and other mechanics for Frostblades. But regardless, it was pretty cool to finally be able to do that. And I will include the video and some bossing footage that I have with the new shaped claws. I was actually finally able to get 2 rare shaped claws, and I did try out some 100% delirium. In this footage right here, you can see that I'm doing 100% deli. It's kind of sketchy. The build is a little squishy, especially when you have vulnerability, but it's actually able to still do it even without a headhunter, which is actually just insane. Whoa, he just killed me. Okay, that's not really fair. The guy is kind of overpowered, you know. But regardless, you're able to do 100% deli without having to use a headhunter, and you can clear the full map. It's probably not advisable to do Legion without the headhunter because Legion mobs do a lot of fizz damage, and with aura stacking, yes, the mobs have aura stacking too. It's not really a good idea, and you will die, especially if you're aggro or phase aggro build, because aura stacking is overpowered and the fizz damage reduction of this build is not very good. And another thing to note is do not run dodge. Player has unlucky chance to dodge. It's actually incredibly bad for evasion based builds. So overall 100% deli is doable. So the other topic I wanted to cover in today's video is the difference between hardcore and softcore builds. I'm going to look at the 2 most cookie cutter builds versions of SST Raider and showcase pretty much what the difference is between a hardcore and softcore player and what actually makes them better or tankier than you. So let's get straight into the gear overview. Before we do that, my gear has gone, it hasn't really changed that much, but the damage is absolutely just absurd. I know a lot of times I say that Touch of Anguish is pretty good, but rare claws in the end will beat out Touch of Anguish. Touch of Anguish does perform extremely well for its budget, and you can probably still somewhat do 100% deli, although it'll be pretty hard. However, I did finally finish crafting out these 2 shaped claws. I think they're around like 550 to 600 PDPS each. And luckily for me, they both got Celebration T1 attack speed. Now yesterday when I was showing how to craft the shaped claws, I forgot to tell you guys that you have to use a Warlords or Crusaders Exalt after you finish crafting the prefixes. And that's why Path of Exile would not let me randomize influence. So you need to make sure the claw is influenced after you have finished the prefixes, and then you craft prefixes cannot be changed, and then you use randomized influence.
I cannot do this yet.
This craft equivalent except on a weapon, a quiver. So that's how you do it. It took me a lot of tries to get this done because I got unlucky on the attack speed. But in the end, I got T1 attack speed, so I can't complain too much. But you can see that this claw is significantly worse rolled. It has Chosen and Flaring and T5 Mercenaries, and this one has Merciless, Flaring, and Reverse, only T6 Hybrid. However, these 2 claws are almost identical in damage purely because of the Fizz enchant, the Tempering Orb enchant. So if you want to craft a claw, make sure to grab a Tempering Orb enchant on it. It makes it a lot easier. Like this one here has crit and Fizz modifiers, so even though it's not that well rolled, it's still extremely good compared to other claws, because 8% is a huge deal. It pretty much means a 555 DPS claw goes up to 600 PDPS. Now, the next thing I want to craft is a Blizzard Crown. A Blizzard Crown is probably the biggest increase in damage for the build. Now, the reason why is because Blizzard Crown's downside is that you have like increased cold res, the monsters, but since most of our damage is fire and chaos, we don't need to worry about that downside, and that amount of flat damage is pretty much equal to around like a third of the added cold damage gem, so it should be an incredible boost of DPS, so it's like having a 6.5 link. Now, crafting the helm, I will probably just do nearby enemies take increased elemental damage and multi, and I'm going to awaken orb those 2 things together So it's going to be a Shaper and Warlord helm, kind of similar to making an Aura Stacker helmet. And then I'm probably going to craft on prefixes. Suffixes cannot be changed, and Reforge Life, more likely, or Reforge. Or I'll try to do something with Reforge Fire to get Fizz damage taken as fire, and then use Ashling with prefixes. Suffixes cannot be changed or something like that. So there's a lot of options for the helm, and that's actually the biggest source of damage that I could possibly have. Like I said before, Eternity Shroud, still trying to look for +2 proj and +1 gems. It's actually extremely expensive. These jewelry, I probably will have to... I want to re-roll this Warlord's Mark Ring, because it's just kind of bad. I exalted the ring, and I ended up getting 8% rarity. That is just a shame, right? 8% rarity, T4 rarity, very unlucky exalt. And for these claws, I just exalted the last stat, so this one got chance to maim, which I guess is not the worst thing, but it's not good. And this one got mana regen, so kind of bad, but nothing else you can really do to fill out the suffixes now that Ashling Exalt doesn't exist. So the boots, I still want to get a better pair, but they're actually extremely expensive to make. So a lot of people ask me how much is the total cost of this build. So the total cost of the build, after calculating everything out, is around 75x for all the gear and jewels besides the claws. The claws are not really sure how much they would cost. They probably cost me around 80 exalts to make both of them, but I got extremely unlucky on the attack speed. But the main thing to keep in mind is that the bulk of the cost of the gear is in this gloves, boots, and Bottle Faith. These 3 items alone make up more than half of the cost of the build. And you don't need a Bottle Faith to play the build. The Bottle Faith is a really good flask, but it's nowhere near mandatory. And you don't need to have a Shaper Hunter Strike gloves with life and attack speed. You can just have a Strike, or you can just use a Shaper gloves with just life and have Anoint Tribal Fury on your amulet. So there's a lot of budget options, right? You don't need like Tailwind effect. You can pretty much use a triple res life move speed Shaper boots, and they would probably only run you like 20-30 chaos, right? So there's a lot of other budget options that you can use. You don't need to use a Stygian. You can just use a shaped leather belt or something. But you can see that this build, similar to the Aura Stacker, has a lot of options for upgrading your gear. Like, even though I spent a good amount of currency, and I really haven't spent that insane. Like, if you think about it, all my gear combined together, besides the claws, is less than a headhunter. And if you think about it like that and frame it in that aspect, you can see that this character's cost efficiency is extremely, extremely high for the amount of investment you have to put in. And it's actually one of the fastest characters I've played. A lot of people argue that, oh, my character is faster, but your character might run faster, but Whirling Blade speed is everything. If you were around, like I said before, back in the day when Baked Chicken used to play, he would always be about Whirling Blade speed and getting it as low as possible, because in maps that you can Whirling Blades is the biggest, most important thing. So let's look at the tree. I haven't really got any new jewels, so this is the Secrets of Suffering jewel right here. Oh, the Watcher's Eye I changed out. You no longer need to use Hatred Crit Watcher's Eye if you use Secrets of Suffering, as we're easily crit capped without the Watcher's Eye. What this actually means is that you can get a 1 Exalt Watcher's Eye with flat cold damage Hatred, and it's extremely efficient. This Watcher's Eye I have here is 15x purely because of the attack speed. So you don't really need it. You just need a Hatred. Flat cold is probably the best, or a Precision Multi or something like that. But what that means is the Watcher's Eye is extremely affordable, only around 1 Exalt. Oh, I actually took these notes on accident instead of conversion. Huh. I've actually been playing the whole day without converting. Wow, I actually did not know that. So all of these clips you will see upcoming has damage that's not fully converted to cold. How did I... Oh, that's actually crazy. I don't know what I was doing, but I was trying to out Wild Strike, but I literally played the whole day without these nodes. Like, do these nodes actually increase the damage? Uh-oh, okay. Well, hopefully no one who watches my stream actually sees what I did, because that's actually crazy. So it's 430. Oh yeah, so a lot of the clips that you'll see, the damage is a lot higher. I don't know what I was doing. Just forgot. I was testing it out, and yeah. So good thing I make these videos, right? So I actually catch these mistakes, but that's actually pretty bad. I mean, attack speed is very nice, but so is having your damage fully converted to cold. But anyhow, that's basically the gear overview. Some other options I was thinking of is maybe making a Berserker Wander, but that remains to be seen. And yeah, very bad mistake. Make sure if you test stuff to always revert back to what it used to be. But yeah, so now I'm going to talk about difference between hardcore and softcore players and characters. So there's a lot of like people like to compare like hardcore and softcore characters and players and like what really makes the big difference between them, right? I've actually played more hardcore than softcore, so I'm a pretty good person to be an ambassador for knowing both sides of the coin or story. So basically, number one thing in hardcore is people avoid risks and you roll your maps a lot better. You do not just go, oh, it's minus max, it's okay, I'm just gonna run it anyhow, we'll see what happens. And they also don't go, oh, I might die to this shaper or this boss fight, it's okay, I probably won't die, it's fine. They don't also go, oh, I have 4.5k life, it's okay, I probably will just run this map anyhow and I'll upgrade the gear later. It's all about risk management in hardcore. You need to know how strong your character is, and knowing like how the power level of your character and how strong it is relative to the content that you'll be doing is huge. That's why it's important to like play the game and build that you're doing a lot, just to know like the breakpoints for your character and when you can start doing different content, like when you can actually maybe do one damage mod on a map. And like if you ever do the gauntlet, you know that most people actually roll the maps blue if the map sustain from the league mechanic is good enough. Now, also another difference is that the builds are kind of different. Like even though Spectral Shield Throw is the most popular build in both softcore and hardcore, there are some vast differences. Number one difference is more HP nodes on the tree. So you can see here, this is the number one, or this is just a random raider I found. He's like pretty high up there. He has like decent amount of life, 4,200 with, what's it called, with 4,200 with phase acro raider evasion. So number one thing you'll see is that this guy does not have any of the life nodes in the duelist tree or the Scion life wheel. For hardcore players in general, the whole passive tree will always revolve around getting life nodes. So you can see this person took all the life nodes in the duels. They even went up to here and took even more life nodes in the Scion life wheel, meaning that the character ended up with 6.7k life, right? And meanwhile, this person ends up with 4.2k life. Another difference is that this person uses jewels at the end of the medium clusters, while this person, instead of having a lot of jewels, they use fettles. So that's actually another way you can get your life pool up. So if you ever feel like your character is constantly dying and you don't want to die anymore, a good choice is sacrifice some of that damage, that 16% cold damage and 12% proj damage, for pretty much another, like, I don't know how much fettle is. It's like 20 life and 10% life, and also 4% life as one of the travel points. So that's the main difference, right? So how does someone go from 4.2 to 6.7? Well, part of it is fettle, and it's also the tree. But you might be wondering, where do they get all the points to put all these points into life? So you can see here, this person decided to take all of the dual wield damage nodes at the bottom, which is a lot of damage. You can see the damage difference is immense. This person is 58 million. This person is a pedestrian, 4.5 million, right? But there is a saying that you don't do damage when you're dead, and that is absolutely true. But you can see this tree is relatively similar, right? And another thing is that they're not crit. And it's very hard to go crit in like hardcore in general, because in order to go crit, you have to invest in a lot of crit nodes on the tree. You have to invest in multi, and you also have to invest in like multiplier on your jewels and your gear, meaning that it's a lot harder to get perfect gear of life on it. So if you look at this person's scepter, it is elemental overload, and elemental overload is pretty good. It's pretty much like having 150% multi with 100% crit at all times. So what this means is that this person does not need to take assassination node cluster here or any crit chance up here, and they also don't need to worry about getting crit multi on any of their jewels. And because you don't need crit multi on jewels, the opportunity cost of taking fettle is a lot lower, right? So that's another difference. And you can also see ascendancy choice is another big thing. This person takes the frenzy charge portion of the raider, while this person decides to get more 35% more evasion for attacks and ranged attacks, I think, or ranged projectiles. So this person also decides to use a glorious vanity, and this person doesn't use a glorious vanity at all, the softcore person. But glorious vanity, like I said before, with the overleech is huge in terms of helping your character survive. Now, both people obviously are going to want to have max life on every single piece of gear. This person has life. Yeah. So regardless if you're hardcore or softcore, you always want to have life on every single piece of gear, unless you're trying to be a tooltip warrior on PoE Ninja, and then you want to have your life node as a prefix of damage. So both softcore and hardcore players will always want to have life on everything. And if you could always choose to have life or not to have life, no one is ever going to choose not to have life. And you can also see the flasks are the same thing, right? So this person runs Zeri's Promise. So even in hardcore, people still run Bottle Faith even if they're not crit, purely because Bottle Faith is just that good. A lot of people ask me what's the first thing to upgrade in their build, and the general answer is almost always Bottle Faith. And Vermilion rings are another big thing in hardcore. You can see a lot of people in hardcore will always prioritize getting Fertile Catalyst on Vermilion ring for 8% increased life. It is a lot easier to make up the resist than to make up more percent life. There's just nowhere to get more percent life at a for like any efficiency after a certain point. So Vermilion rings is another great hardcore tech to make your character tankier. Now, one last thing is hardcore players also really prefer getting physical damage from hits taken as elemental damage. This is actually insanely important for phys damage, especially for evasion and acrobatics and phase acro builds, because the only way to really mitigate phys damage is through this method. And I guess you also have Taste of Hate to help that out too. But basically, that should show you the difference in the two builds. And it's not to say that softcore players should immediately convert to hardcore playstyle and get like what 10% of the damage and have 2.7k more life. The only thing to take from this is that you can probably make your build a little bit more balanced. Like, this person doesn't need 58 million DPS, and well, this person definitely needs 6.7k life. Because if you look at it, let's guess, do you think this person is alive or dead in hardcore? If you play hardcore long enough, you're probably going to be dead, so let's go take a look. And this person is dead, unfortunately. I don't really know what he died to, so he could have probably used more life. But in the end, for softcore especially, it is extremely important to balance it correctly. Otherwise, your character will just be perma-dead a lot of times. However, if you're level 100 already and you don't really care if you die and you have Cast on Death Portal, that's definitely one way to play. If you just want to have max damage, both ways are fine. It's just wanted to highlight some of the differences between hardcore and softcore builds with the exact same build and show like what's actually the big difference and how they actually have so much more life. A lot of times they're not even like that much better than you guys at boss fights. Their character is just able to tank everything. So don't be that intimidated when people say like hardcore players just own softcore players. It is not true, as someone who's played both leagues extensively.
I just can't let you go. Lord knows that I've tried to. You said I was the only one. No one likes being lied to. You made this mess and left me with the pieces. Now I wanna burn all the bridges between us. I can't focus, I can't forget. I've been thinking too much lately. I just need to clear my head. I just need to clear my head. I've been stuck on your memory, but it's not like I need it. And we may have some history, but we don't have to repeat it. You made this mess and left me with the pieces. Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down. Can't be afraid to leave this out. We got this far, don't know how. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we're gonna land.
Hope you guys enjoyed all of those Boston clips. I have to say that this build's damage is absolutely just absurd, and that's without the full conversion to cold damage. I was actually just trolling on stream all day today, and I probably lost like so much, 30% damage at least from what I was doing on stream. So you can see the damage is absolutely absurd with the Shaper Claws, and I do think that this is the best setup. I know Touch of Anguish is extremely budget efficient, but this should give you something to work towards. I will try to make a really fleshed out guide in the coming days after I pretty much like finish off this character and know everything about it, because I don't really want to make a crafting guide and budget entry guide. So it's going to be really nice. It's going to have like the gems, ascendancies, and sections. I'm going to copy some other build guides format that people love and try to make it as similar as possible to make it more digestible for beginners who are trying to start it off. I do think that this build is extremely budget efficient. It's probably pretty good to play early on, as Frostblades can carry mechanically for a lot, and it allows you to farm like lower tier maps really easily, and it has insane scaling, as you can see. I do think it is probably one of the fastest builds in the game. I did review some of the comments from the last YouTube video, and I do think Replica Forbidden Shaco Flicker is up there. I saw the Fulcrum build, it looked pretty nice, but it's really hard to beat Whirling Blade speed with Blitz charges. I have another idea, which is playing a Wander with Eternity Shroud with Blitz charges. And I do think with Shield Charge and a max attack speed with Wand's Jewels, you can make something special with a Fizz conversion Wander. But that might be the next project. We'll see what happens. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you find more mirrors and exalts than I do, and see you next time. Bye.